Thank you, Srila Prabhupada and Hare Prabhu. Thank you for the amazing kirtan. And so welcome everybody to ISKCON Columbus Sunday Feast. Today, but the schedule for today is we will have the discourse by His Grace Vrsabhanu Prabhu for the next 1 hour till 12:30. And at 12:30, we will break for a local announcements about the upcoming events. So we are very, very happy to have His Grace Vrsabhanu Prabhu with us all the way from Sridham Mayapur. And I just wanted to, we are really amazing outreach effort, like at this time of the time, I think it's around 10 o'clock in the night at Sridham Mayapur. We are very happy to have Prabhu. And I'm going to hand over to Kajal Mataji. She'll give a brief introduction of the speaker today, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, dear devotee. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you, Vrsabhanu Prabhu.
Yeah,
again.
Nice to see all of you.
Very nice to see you. I'm so happy you could join us again. I know you joined us last week for Prem Sindhu Prabhu's Skype class. So that was absolutely fantastic. And we're just so honored to have you again. ISKCON Columbus is so happy to have you here. And I know it's late in Mayapur. So thank you very much. So just to give a bit of a brief introduction, Vrsabhanu Das is an initiated disciple of His Holiness Parth Goswami, and he holds an MBA and is a computer science graduate. And with his education, he created his own IT company called Gornitai Management Company. And he basically did a lot of project management work, IT governance, a lot of finance work. And then he moved to South Africa, where he was involved in Namahata preaching for about over 10 years and was acting co-president of ISKCON Johannesburg. He moved with his family and 2 daughters and wife, all of whom are initiated to Gita Nagari, Pennsylvania, to serve the deities Sri Radha Damodar full-time. Eventually, with all the blessings and luck of his spiritual master, his whole family transitioned to Sri Dham Mayapur in 2011. In Sri Dham Mayapur, he taught at the Sri Mayapur International School until 2016, and he taught courses like Bhakti Shastri, Business Studies, and Computer Science. Since 2016, he has been serving the GBC Organization Development Committee and GBC Strategic Planning Committee. So let's all give him a warm welcome and Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. And if I've left anything out, please let me know. I know you have so many wonderful details and wonderful, everything about you is amazing. So if I've left anything out, please let us know.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you so much. Wonderful to be in your association.
And I just wanted to point out, one of my friends, how we got introduced was one of my friends, Kirtida, her original name is Kala. She used to live in England, and my dad introduced her to Krishna consciousness. And so Kala moved to Mayapur, and that's where she met Vrsabhanu Prabhu. So absolutely, I'm very fortunate to know you.
I'm very fortunate to know you and the Yatra. I've been seeing some of the wonderful verses and realizations of the Japa group. And I can see that you're all very serious sadhakas, and I'm honored to be in your association. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll be reading.
By the way, we do have a hard stop at 12:30. I know, because it's late in Mayapur. It's going to be 11 o'clock, and you probably need to go. So all devotees, we have a hard stop at 12:30.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect to speak for more than half an hour, and then I'm hoping that the remaining half hour we could have it more interactive and address any questions that may be there. Okay. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayati Vayat Asta Prayeshu Abhidreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. So we are reading a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 16. And this is the passing away of Bhishma Dev in the presence of Lord Krishna. And the setting is basically the battle of Kurukshetra is over and Bhishma Dev's lying on the bed of arrows. Yudhisthira Maharaj is feeling very guilty and is a bit depressed almost because of the fact that so many lives were lost because he felt they were lost because of him. So he's seeking instruction, and many great sages, including Krishna himself, they come to see Yudhisthira Maharaj. And now Bhishma is basically preaching to Yudhisthira Maharaj. And the reason I chose this verse is, well, let's just read the verse and then we can go into that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 16. Nahi asya karichit rajan puman veda viditsitam yad vijigyasaya yukta muyanti kavayopihi. Translation: O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. Purport: the bewilderment of Maharaj Yudhisthira over his past sinful acts and the resultant sufferings, etc., is completely negated by the great authority Bhishma, one of the 12 authorized persons. Bhishma wanted to impress upon Maharaj Yudhisthira that since time immemorial, no one, including such demigods as Shiva and Brahma, could ascertain the real plan of the Lord. And so what can we understand about it? It is useless also to inquire about it. Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. The best policy is simply to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument. The suffering of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue, and therefore his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue. Bhishma Dev was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhisthira on the throne, although he himself fought against him. Even a great fighter like Bhishma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue, regardless of who tries to execute it. Bhishma Dev was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord, because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhishma cannot win on the wrong side. I'll read the translation again. O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pastya Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you once again for allowing me to be in your association. The reason I chose this verse today, that no one can know the plan of the Lord Sri Krishna, even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered, is because in the last 2 years, with this whole COVID crisis, many devotees have been experiencing different types of difficulties. Kind of difficulties that devotees went through, health-related issues, loss of loved ones, friends, family members. Some devotees experienced financial problems. Others had relationship issues because of spending too much time together, and they weren't accustomed to doing that. So with all these problems kind of just coming down in the last 2 years, sometimes devotees may ask the question, why is Krishna doing this? Why do we have to go through this difficulty? So from the purport that we've just read, it's quite clear that this is not karma. There's a big difference between what devotees go through and what non-devotees go through. So if we have a look at the non-devotee world, what they are experiencing is their karma. Now, of course, if someone has just lost a loved one, we're not going to go up to them and tell them, hey, it's your karma. We need to be sensitive about it, of course. But the point is that we should not think that when devotees are experiencing difficulty, that it's the same as karma. It's not. In fact, as soon as one surrenders to Krishna, Krishna takes that karma and he keeps it. He now controls it. And now it becomes Krishna karma. And Krishna will dish out that karma as required. He can choose to use a karma to punish us when we are drifting away from him. And he can use the karma to reward us when he feels that we need some encouragement. So Krishna has this special arrangement. How do we understand this? It's like everyone is being taken care of by Krishna. But when one surrenders unto Krishna, we become part of the family. It's a difference between the children of a king and the people in the community. There's a big difference. Even though the king takes care of everybody, those who are his family members, he takes a special interest in their welfare. So becoming devotees, or trying to become devotees, we become part of that special family in terms of Krishna's intimate family. So we see here in this case, even Bhishma Dev fighting against Krishna. He's a devotee, but yet he's fighting against Krishna. He's shooting arrows to Krishna. And does anyone remember how Krishna felt the arrows hitting him? Anyone recall? Please say so.
Like flowers?
Flowers.
Yeah. Krishna felt it like flowers being offered to him because he was accepting the devotion. Of course, we know that Bhishma had his reasons for doing it, but Krishna saw the intent behind it. Bhishma was not trying to be non-Krishna conscious. So Krishna karma, we see many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, how Krishna uses one's karma to bring the devotee closer to him. So can any of you think about other examples in Bhagavatam that where devotees were undergoing what we may think is karma, but actually it was Krishna bringing them closer to him? Can any of you think of some examples?
Well, that's what Queen Kunti said, but maybe that's the same example because it's the Pandavas.
Okay, yeah. Pandavas is there. Great. Thank you, Rukmini Mataji. Anyone else? No, any other examples?
What was the question, Prabhu? Sorry, I could not.
Oh, I'm saying, can you think of examples in Bhagavatam where devotees experience some reversal in their lives, but ultimately it was Krishna's arrangement to bring them closer?
Utrasram.
Vitrasura, yeah, Vitrasura. Even though he was in the body of a demon, Krishna used that to bring him closer. So there are a few examples. Vitrasura is another example.
Ambarish Maharaj.
Ambarish Maharaj, great. Any other examples? Yes.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj, yeah.
Jamil was one of them as well. And the
Ajmal's situation was slightly different because his case was he was in a pious Brahmana family, but then he steered away, and then he really got into sinful activities. So in his case, he wasn't really a sadhaka. Now the other he wasn't a practicing devotee; he was a materialist, but he got the benefit of chanting Namavas. So Ajmal's situation is slightly different from the other devotees we've just mentioned. But you kind of get the example. The bottom line is that Krishna uses the karma of a devotee to bring the devotee closer. So even though we cannot understand the plan of Krishna, how does a devotee accept it? So there's a lovely verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, Text 8. Anyone know the verse offhand? Yeah, Rukmini Mataji.
Tattenukampang susamekshmano bhunjana evatma kritang vipakang ridvagvapurbhir vidadhan namaste jiveta yumukti pade sadaya bhak.
Beautiful. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So there's a wonderful purport there given by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, because this is after Srila Prabhupada had left, that this particular part of Bhagavatam was written. And it basically says that all a devotee needs to do is stay alive, meaning we just got to stay on the path of Krishna consciousness, just have to survive. And provided we survive on the path of Krishna consciousness, that goal, that ultimate goal of love of Krishna will be inherited. We will inherit it just like a son inherits the kingdom of the father, but just remaining alive. So that verse also says that the devotee is punished. He gets karmic reactions because he has last vestiges of sinful desires in the heart. So even though when one chants Hare Krishna, much, if not all of the karmic reactions, prarabdha, manifested karmic reactions are cleared away by chanting in namabhas, in an offenseless state, still there's desires within the heart. And what happens is, if those desires are not cleansed, then those desires come to our mind and we start acting upon it. So what Krishna does is Krishna uses our bad karma as such, and he purifies us because we've got these desires in our hearts. So we sometimes get some reactions. Devotees go through difficulties because they have these sinful desires within the heart. So Krishna orchestrates it so that these sinful desires can be removed. So sometimes one may say, well, okay, when we take initiation, then isn't our karma taken away? That's a common understanding, right? That when you take initiation, your guru takes your karma and then you're cleared. So how many of you believe that that's how it works? You just take initiation, have the fire again. Whoop, the karma's gone. Guru's got all your karma. Vishwanath Prabhu is shaking his head. Share with us, Vishwanath Prabhu, what do you think?
I think that it leads us in the right path for us to help observe. But as far as I remember reading, as long as the living entity we have desire, we're still responsible for those. How we choose to act on it may be different. How we get good, bad, or in between. Right.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? In terms of initiation and the guru taking on one's karma?
This is Naveen Krishna. My understanding is yes or no. Yes, it does happen. It just, again, we have a free will. Now, what we do after that, it either creates new karma. If you're sincere, and then if you're honest, and then even though intention is good, but if there is maturity, there is a consolation. But however, we are still responsible for what we do after that.
Okay, great. So the example is given that when we take initiation, it's like when a doctor accepts a patient, right? The doctor has accepted the patient, but it doesn't mean that because the doctor has accepted the patient, that automatically the patient is cured. The patient has to follow the proper protocol. He has to follow the diet, and he has to take the medicine. And then gradually the patient can become cured. So how does a spiritual master take on this karma? The spiritual master, by his mercy, he basically gives one the tools, abhideya. That's where abhideya comes in, the tools and the process by which one can get rid of karma. the 9 processes of devotional service automatically clears away karma. Chanting of Hare Krishna automatically clears away karma. So that is what the spiritual master is given. He's giving us the tools by which this karma can be removed. But we'll find that the karma doesn't get taken away straight away. There's in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Madhurya Kadambini, he gives a process where certain types of karma is removed at certain stages. And Srila Prabhupada says that by the time one comes to the level of nistha, fixed devotional service, 75% of one's karma is wiped out. Prabhupada says that by the time one comes to nistha. So the technicalities of the kind of karma that's removed, because you have karma from past pious activities, from past sinful activities, karma from offenses that are caused, different types of offenses, seva aparads while we are doing service to the deities, nama aparads. So there's karmic reaction for so many different types of offenses as well. And in Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur very clearly lays out what kinds of karma are removed at what stage. But we don't have time to go into that for now. That's a seminar by itself. So in terms of the nullification of karma, that can always be discussed in further detail at another time. But it's interesting to know that just by thinking, feeling, and willing, we are creating a series of future material bodies. Just having these desires, we are creating future material bodies. And this is called karma bandhana. Karma bandhana. And this is in Bhagavatam 4:29-78. 4:29-78, where it said that Prabhupada says that Krishna is merciful to the devotee, and rather than get the future material bodies, Krishna works out these desires through dreams. In other words, a devotee may dream of something that he has not experienced, but is actually a future material body that Krishna has now worked out through a dream. So because of these mental thoughts, we would ordinarily take on more material bodies. But Krishna, by his mercy, he allows us to actually dream about these bodies. And by so dreaming about these bodies, we are clearing away karma. But that's the mercy of Krishna. Prabhupada gives a very nice purport there. So, as I mentioned earlier, all we need to do is just survive in Krishna consciousness and know that Krishna has a plan. So sometimes we may say, okay, let's just say I come to you, Ramesh Prabhu, and I say, oh, Ramesh Prabhu, I have you as part of a plan. You're implicated in my plan, but you're going to get some pain or distress from that plan. How will you feel about that? How would you feel about that, Ramesh Prabhu? I'm implicated in your plan, and you may get some sort of negative reaction by the fact that I'm implicated in your plan.
Yeah, it will be difficult, but at least I'll see that the Lord's compassion probably.
Yeah. Well, ordinarily, if the Lord wasn't involved, and I say I'm implicated in the plan, you can ask me, hey, who are you to implicate me in your plan? What gives you the right? Okay, I mean, it's natural. But when Krishna implicates us in a plan, there's a bigger picture to it. So you can think about it for yourselves in your lives in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes something happens to us. We go through a difficult situation. And at that time, when we are going through that difficult situation, it's like, wow, this is like heavy stuff I'm going through. I know personally I've been through many different types of situations over the years. And at that time, it's like, whoa, this is like pretty serious stuff, you know? And we cannot really appreciate why it's happening at that time. But 2, 3, 4 years down the line, sometimes even longer, we then see and look back and we say, oh, Krishna had a bigger plan. How many of you have experienced that? Yeah, see heads nodding. Yeah. So Krishna, so the only problem is at that point, we don't really know what the idea is. But at that point, what we try and do is we try and fix the problem. We have a material problem and we try and use a material solution. And there's a problem with that. The problem is that as long as we are trying to solve a material problem with a material solution, what's the nature of material life? It's temporary. So that solution is always going to be temporary. So there's a nice example in Bhagavatam as well with Prithu Maharaj. You know, Prithu Maharaj was trying to perform the horse sacrifice, the 100 horses. And the last sacrifice that he wanted to perform, our friend Indra decides to spoil this yagya because he was afraid now someone else is going to take my position. And Indra steals the horse. He steals the horse and takes the horse away. So Prithu Maharaj's son goes chasing after Indra to try and kill Indra. And when Indra sees that, oh, you know, I'm being hunted down, Indra changes into sannyas dress. Okay, he changes into the sannyas dress. So when Prithu Maharaj's son comes there, naturally he cannot kill the sannyasi. You know, it's just not proper. So he goes back. And then Atri Muni, who's the priest doing the yagya, he tells him, listen, go back and get the horse and, you know, do what you need to do. And he goes back. And once again, Indra changes into sannyas dress and nothing can be done. So he comes back again. And at this point, Prithu Maharaj becomes really angry and he decides he's going to kill Indra himself. But then Lord Brahma comes and stops him. And Brahma says the following. He says, my dear king, do not be agitated and anxious because your sacrifices are not being properly executed due to providential impediments. Kindly take my words with great respect. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify these reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. So this is Bhagavatam 4:19-34. So there's a wonderful purport there. You can always read that afterwards. And in that purport, the bottom line is that we are meant to tolerate. We're meant to tolerate these reversals that we experience and understand that Krishna has a greater plan. So if we take this old COVID situation as an example, Krishna has arranged this COVID situation with multiple objectives in mind. Okay, so can anyone think about what kind of objectives you've seen Krishna achieving through this COVID situation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I've seen that people have actually tried to expand upon what they know about Krishna and share that with their family and those in their community because they have they don't have that devotee association that we're used to having. So we have to spread it ourselves and start preaching.
Right. Thank you, Adhikar. Great. Anything else? Any other reasons? Yes, Mataji. Rukmini Mataji.
Yes. So because we're isolated, we also give more importance to the books when we don't have the face-to-face association. I mean, the Zoom association, like you're mercifully giving, and many devotees are very mercifully giving, is very wonderful, that Adhikartha Prabhu mentioned. But also, it's not the same as face-to-face. So then, since we have more solitude, then we can go deeper into the books also.
Right. Okay. Any other reasons? Anything else we've noticed? Well, let's just look at the material effects. We know the situation in Delhi with the pollution, right? Pollution is so high in Delhi. Devotees, not devotees, anyone just living in Delhi is constantly bombarded by this pollution. And with the COVID lockdown, the air in 2020 was almost 33% cleaner than before the COVID situation, 33%. And another good one for us is the River Jamuna. For two governments tried to clean up the River Jamuna over a period of 25 years. And they spent something like 5 crore rupees to try and clean up Jamuna. It never worked. And within 60 days of the coronavirus lockdown, within 60 days, for free, the Jamuna was cleared up. So Krishna has also chosen with this COVID thing to purify the atmosphere as well. And of course, with devotees, we see that, prior to the COVID lockdown, we'd probably just meet at a Sunday program, maybe the odd home program, house program. But because we couldn't go to the temples, we were forced to use technology to get together. And since the COVID situation, we've got so many of these Zoom conferences and virtual programs coming up. Now, the good thing about it is that post-COVID, after we've kind of gotten over this rough period, we'll be able to still go back to the temple, but we may still keep these sanghas. And that's perfect, right? It's brought us closer together. It's got devotees to spend more time, more quality time together. Because many of us are working. And most of the time we are spending in the office, and we are spending it with non-devotees. Good 8 hours or so outside the house, 5 days a week or 6 days a week. It's a major part of our time being spent with non-devotees. And there's a lot of negative energy coming in from there. In fact, some acharyas say that the atmosphere becomes polluted by material sound vibrations. In fact, just the telling of lies, as an example, the amount of lies being spoken, the amount of all this bad sound vibrations going around, it actually contaminates the ether, and the water becomes contaminated, the environment becomes contaminated, and from that contamination, we get disease. Whereas when we have transcendental sound vibration, it purifies the ether. So we can see once again how even something as spiritual as chanting of the holy names, besides all the spiritual benefit, it also has this sort of secondary benefits of cleansing the ether and purifying the atmosphere. And overall, it basically makes a better place for everyone. The other thing about this COVID crisis is that devotees, like I know personally, we couldn't attend the temple every day to take darshan of Radha Madhava and the Asasakis and the other deities. And we'd go every day, and then with the lockdown, we couldn't go for some period of time. And that was really difficult because we had gotten accustomed to seeing them every day. It was part of our life. So it does sort of bring about a bit of separation. And of course, separation is good, because Rupa Goswami himself says that love is only complete when there is some separation. You have to have union, but you have to have separation. And it's like it's like the salt that kind of gives it a bit more flavor. We don't want separation, but the separation does increase the ras and make the relationships, can make the relationships deeper. So in conclusion, as I said, I'm just going to speak for a short period of time. In conclusion, what do we take away with us? One, whatever devotees are going through, Krishna has his hand in it. We have to accept that Krishna has a hand in it. It's not ordinary karma. Two, Krishna does not make any mistakes. He has a perfect plan. Perfect plan. Three, whatever Krishna is doing has multiple reasons, including, and most importantly, bringing us closer to him. And then the last sort of takeaway from this presentation is that when we experience these difficulties, rather than asking Krishna, why are you doing this to me? We should rather ask Krishna, please give us the strength to deal with this difficulty. And 2, please give us the intelligence to know how to deal with the situation and bring us closer to you. So if there's something you have to walk away with, that is basically something you can take away with you. It's a very simple presentation, stuff that you already heard before, but it's always nice hearing it again. So at this point, we can have a look, see if anyone has any questions. I'm just having a look at the chat. If there are any questions. A Prabhupada disciple, Navadi Prabhu, told me Prabhupada had said that lies in the ether cause cancer. Yeah. In fact, Bhakti Vakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Prabhupada's esteemed godbrother, writes about this as well, about these lies that are polluting the ether. Okay, I don't see any questions on the chat. So does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask or write down?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thanks for the nice presentation. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I had just one question. Again, thanks for the very nice discourse, the way you put it in perspective. I really liked it. And the only thing, Prabhu, I had a question was, here we are, Lord Bhishma says this is an inconceivable plan. Like we cannot understand what Lord Krishna says, but when you go out to the material world or when you're talking to the non-devotees and all those things, when you tell them this, it's kind of, they will again come back saying that, no, this is not scientific, you guys are not talking in the logical manner or something like that. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I'm purely talking in terms of an outreach perspective. From a devotee perspective, yes, absolutely, this is fine. I don't have any questions for you. And thank you for giving us all the references. But you got my question, right? When we go for outreach,
how do you deal with non-devotees in the situation?
Right.
The first point is that the quality of a Madhyamadikari or someone who's aspiring to become a Madhyamadikari is that he accepts the Lord and he develops love for the Lord. He associates favorably with the devotees. He avoids the envious and he helps the innocent. So the last two, avoiding the envious and helping the innocent. We have to be able to first identify whether the person or persons or group of people we are preaching to or trying to do outreach to, whether they are in that position of being favorable enough and innocent enough to be helped. If they are not, then rather than preach to them, rather just give them prasadam. There are other ways of helping them. Give them prasadam. If they like music, then we could always direct them to some wonderful kirtans by sort of more, shall I say, contemporary singers like Janavi and the like. So we can do outreach like that. The other thing is sometimes the people we are trying to reach out to could be in the yoga scene. If they're in the yoga scene, then they have some idea of subtle energies and whatever. So we don't have to necessarily preach direct Krishna consciousness to them. We can talk about the subtle things, like how the ether can be polluted. Like, as an example, this thing about the negative sound vibrations affecting the ether. There's an experiment. There's actually a scientific experiment where they grow plants. And for one set of plants, they sort of expose the plants to heavy metal kind of music. And to another set of plants, they play beautiful, like Bach and Beethoven, and it's very nice, more kind of sattvic stuff. And they've shown how the plants that are given this heavy metal head bagging stuff die. They die, come really bad. Whereas the other plants, they actually blossom. That's nothing to do with religion. Nothing to do with religion. This is pure science. So we can preach on that level, depending on where they are. Now, if they are a little bit more favorable to Krishna consciousness and to the devotees, then we can start introducing things about the chanting or things about Bhagavad Gita or whatever. But we have to be able to gauge where a person is sitting at. Does that help you in terms of, or does it answer your question?
Sure, Prabhu. Sure, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sure.
Okay. The question here, can you speak a little bit? Sorry, yes, Vishwanath Prabhu, did you say something? No. Okay.
This is Naveen Krishnadas.
Yes, Prabhu, I can hear you.
Sorry, I was driving, so I could not put I had a service in temple. I'm just coming back.
No
So
problem.
my question, you made a point that Vishwanath Chakravarti said that when you come to Nishtha, that's where all the other thoughts will be removed and then you have a crystal clarity. But my understanding is the other way around, where first Anartha Nivritti happens, and after that, that takes us to Nishtha stage where we have a firm faith and firm determination. So can you comment on that?
Okay, so can someone repeat the question? Because I couldn't hear you, Prabhu. Can someone repeat the question for me, please?
I didn't hear it completely, but he was talking about what you said from Madhurya Kadambini and the clearing of karma at Nishtha versus Anartha Nivritti. I didn't exactly hear what exactly was the question.
Would you be able to
I was
repeat?
saying the order was Anartha Nivritti, and then when all unwanted things is removed, then that takes us to the next Nishtha stage. But you're saying that when Nishtha, like, other way around, I was just maybe some reason why it is mentioned. Can you comment on that?
Not all are removed.
Sorry, what were you saying, Rukmini? You got a little bit more of what you said.
Sorry, there is an echo.
It's okay, Prabhu. You move forward because I have a bad reception right now. So I was just thinking, order was Anartha Nivritti and the Nishtha, but Mother Combini is saying other way around. So I was just needing a little clarification on that. So.
No, it's Anartha Nivritti. There's Shraddha, which is faith. And then there's an echo sometimes. There's Shraddha, which is faith, and that's a starting point. And then because we have some faith, what happens is we start associating with devotees, sadhu sangha. And through the association of devotees, sadhu sangha, we are engaged in devotional service, bhajana kriya. And devotional service, that could be sweeping the temple, it could be bringing some fruits for the deities, it could be chanting Hare Krishna, bhajana kriya. And bhajana kriya then progresses to Anartha Nivritti, which is the clearing stage, where we are clearing most of our anarthas, the unwanted desires and the obstacles in our Krishna consciousness. And when we've cleared away most of these anarthas, Prabhupada says 75% of these anarthas are cleared away, then we reach the stage of Nishtha, which is fixed. So at the stage of Nishtha, we would have basically cleared away all the anarthas, but not all the, as Rukmini Mataji is saying here, not all the anarthas are cleared away straight away. And what's cleared away at those lower stages is discussed in detail in Madhurya Kadambini. But Mataji is talking about Bhav. At the level of Bhav, the offenses, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, there's a sniff of offenses. It's like, if any of you have used mustard oil, if you've used mustard oil in a bottle and then you pour out all the mustard oil, there's still a sniff of the mustard oil in the bottle. So at the level of Bhav, we'll find that there's still a sniff of anarthas. And those anarthas at the level of Bhav is especially coming from Vaishnava Parad. And even that is not fully cleared until we come into the association of Krishna, depending on how serious it is, when it's completely cleared away. Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu. That was my understanding too. But what I had was a little, maybe I missed the point here, but thank you. That was my understanding. Thank you.
Okay. There's a question from Kajal Mataji. Can you speak a little bit about bridge preaching and its effectiveness, as well as its drawbacks?
Yeah, thank you. And just specifically, when we do bridge preaching, then our aim is to get them over the bridge, so to speak. And how do we do that?
Yeah, true. Bridge preaching. The problem, the drawback of bridge preaching is that you kind of you run the risk of them just staying on the bridge and not getting to the other side. So that's the danger of bridge preaching. So we are meant to get them to the other side. So bridge preaching is required for certain, and that can be done in different ways through yoga classes, through prasadam distribution, through so many different things. But we have to always, as devotees doing the bridge preaching, we have to, ourselves have to be convinced that this process of bhakti is totally independent. It is not dependent on something. As an example, sometimes devotees get into yoga, the yoga scene, hatha yoga and whatever. And then they sometimes get so much into this yoga scene that they start saying that, oh, my Krishna consciousness has improved because I do yoga, hatha yoga, ashtanga yoga, whatever. And you ask them to explain themselves, and they say, oh, well, now when I'm chanting, I can chant longer and I don't fall off to sleep. But that's got nothing to do with that is not connected. The reason they're not falling off to sleep is because, they're doing these asanas and it's making them healthy. And they're able to stay awake because they're doing some pranayama or whatever. That does not cause bhakti. It allows them to chant better rounds because they're staying awake. But they cannot think at any time, they cannot think that bhakti is dependent on it. Because you can take another person who doesn't do any of the yoga, asanas, or whatever, and they are fine. They are staying awake and chanting bhakti because they've got some taste. But until that point, when we have some taste, we may look at all these other things. So as devotees who are doing bridge preaching, we have to be certain that this is the goal. The goal is to bring them closer to Krishna, to get them to chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, read the scriptures. If we cannot get the people to that point, then the bridge preaching is not successful. Then we are simply wasting time on the bridge, and we're not really achieving the effect. So bridge preaching has to be done. We should be doing it, but we have to be quite smart about whom we are preaching to and whether it's really worth the effort. If it's not worth the effort, then rather just give prasadam and have enough faith that prasadam does the trick. Is that okay, Kajal Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much. No, that really answered my question. Thank you so much for that.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Prabhu. I think Rukmini Mataji has her hand up. So.
Okay, I can't see. Oh, Rukmini Mataji. Okay, yeah. Please go.
Yes, thank you. So I really loved your beautiful class and your attitude about that everything is under Krishna's control and Krishna is writing the story and he accomplishes many purposes at once. And I feel that this is really the helpful attitude to take. And it seems to me that's what's recommended by our scriptures and our acharyas. However, there has been some division within the devotee community, that there are various people who are trying to blame the situation on somebody, and then they are very vocal. And so I've heard that very, very senior devotees in our movement, sometimes they get many vociferous and even hateful messages about related to this current crisis. And so that seems to me a very sad consequence of this COVID situation, that there seems to be dissension among devotees that seems to have been generated by this, and the people who are making these harsh criticisms and sending all these messages, and as you said, they're changing the sound vibration in the ether. Many of them have been practicing for many years. So can you give some insight? How are we to understand this? We can certainly try to refrain from doing that ourselves, but then to see that is happening it's also a little bit discouraging.
For sure. We sometimes have a very simplistic understanding of senior devotees and advanced devotees. We sometimes may think that because someone has been practicing Krishna consciousness for many years, or because they're in the garb of a sannyasi, sannyas cloth, they're very advanced. And if they're wearing a sari, or they're just a simple householder, then they can't be that advanced. And it's a total misunderstanding. You know, there's this thing when you're working, you can have 10 years of experience in work, or you can have 1 year's experience for 10 years. You know, you've heard that phrase, something like that previously. Vishwanath Prabhu, you're shaking it. Probably heard it, right? So you've been doing the same job for 10 years. It doesn't mean you're 10 years experienced. Whereas you can have someone who's had 10 years experience of different types of things. So likewise, we have devotees. If devotees are really getting caught up in this COVID thing in terms of what started the COVID crisis, who's to blame, what's happening, take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine, push the vaccine, don't push the vaccine. And if they're getting into it, it means that they've got too much time on their hands. Really, they've got too much time on their hands, because if you're really busily engaged in Krishna consciousness, you don't have the time for this. You just don't have the time for this, because you're engaged in Krishna consciousness, or you're engaged in your service or your work or whatever, and it's like such a waste of time and energy. So we don't have any control over what others do, and it's dangerous for us to pass judgment on where they're sitting at. But we shouldn't be naive in terms of just thinking that because someone has been practicing Krishna consciousness for so many years, therefore they're advanced or whatever. We basically judge, well, we shouldn't really judge others, but we can choose our association with discrimination based on how attached a person is to Krishna. That's the bottom line, how attached they are to Krishna. And therefore you'll find many devotees, many senior ladies in our movement who are far more advanced than certain sannyasis or gurus in our movement. That's the truth. You know, let's not be naive about it. We don't want to go and judge and say, oh, he's advanced and he's not advanced. But when we see this happening, we shouldn't be surprised, because we should understand that not everyone's on that stage of nistha or ruchi. Because someone is in sannyas cloth doesn't necessarily mean that they are pure devotees, or that they are on the level of bhav, or even the level of ruchi, which is very high. There could even be some that may still be struggling with the higher levels of anartha nivritti. Okay? Prabhupada talks about in Nectar of Instruction. The ideal is to get an uttama a guru who's an uttama adhikari, a topmost guru. But in the absence of an uttama adhikari, we may get a madhyam guru. But Prabhupada also says that sometimes there are gurus or spiritual masters who are kanistha. Kanistha basically means you're below the level of nistha. Because nistha is like the start of madhyam. Like you get each level, kanistha, madhyam, uttama. Then you have kanistha, madhyam, kanistha, uttama. And then you have madhyam, kanistha, madhyam, uttama. So nistha is like madhyam, kanistha. It's the start of kanistha. And then you get to ruchi, madhyam. Ashakti is like madhyam, uttama. It's like the topmost part of madhyam. And then you're going into the higher realms. So does that answer your question, Rukmini Master?
Yes, very, very well. Thank you so much for speaking so forthrightly and insightfully, and that's very clear. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Any other questions? We've got like 4 minutes left.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. I don't see any other questions on the chat. And once again, thank you so much, Prabhu. I think we answered all the questions, and the timing was perfect. And I was wondering, like, would there be some questions left out or all those things? But I know it's around 11 o'clock there in Sridham Mayapur. So thank you. But we will allow you to take some rest. And
thank you.
Once again, hopefully we will have your association soon. And thank you for accepting our request. Within a few days, you accepted the request. That generally people's calendars are so full. It's very difficult to get anybody's time. So thank you so much.
Well, generally my calendar isn't full at this time of night.
You made time. You made time. That was really great. We really appreciate that. And anybody else wanted to add any couple of words for Prabhu? Please feel free to add.
Thank you, Prabhu. Really appreciate from Columbus.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you made a beautiful point. That's take like an advanced devotee versus senior devotee. That was very nice analogy.
Yeah, I mean, our most advanced devotees were householders. Srila Prabhupada was a householder at one point. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a householder. Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj was a householder at some point. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was a householder. At some point, they renounced to whatever. Only Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was like a Nastika Brahmachari from day one kind of thing. So we've got many devotees in our movements who are stalwart householder Vaishnavas, and they are sannyasis for all intents and purposes. They are sannyasis. They are sometimes even more renounced than sannyasis because they have less facilities.
Even in Mahajan, out of 12, 6 or 7 are Grihasthas compared to
What's that? What do you say?
Out of 12 Mahajans, 6 or 7 are Grihasthas.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Hare Prabhupada. And if I've said anything that has offended you in any way, please forgive me. Pancha Kalpata Rubhyascha Kripasindhu Nantakoti Vaishnava Vindaki.
Yeah.
Hare Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for joining. Thank you, Vrsabhanu Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, devotees. So we will have like the only local announcement we have is coming Tuesday is Utpanna Ekadasi. So if anybody would like to do some kirtan, please contact me. And we have kirtan on Facebook. So we will be more than happy to accommodate them. And I think that's all I had. So, but just for everybody's listening, the temple is still open. And feel free to please come and have darshan of the deities and of Srila Prabhupada. And only thing, if you are coming for Krishna lunch, we need to inform earlier so that we can have sufficient prasadam for everybody. So we have to call Nitai Chand Prabhu on his phone. And also the I don't see anybody from the book distribution team. But the December marathon is slowly kicking. So we want to distribute as many Bhagavad Gitas as much as possible. And so I think next time we will have a more detailed announcement on the book distribution. Anybody else wants to add something, please add.
Alec Prabhu is giving us darshan of the temple.
Oh yeah.
Anyone would like to stick around? I can show Radha Network.
Thank you. Thank you. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Alex has a nice group. Prabhudas Prabhu. Have you met Prabhudas Prabhu? Tall gentleman who's bald with my glasses. He's very good at explaining. I get you.
All glories to Jagannath. Jai Jagannath.
Can you spotlight Alec Prabhu? Ramesh Prabhu, can you spotlight him?
You can stand up and do that.
Shri Radha Network.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you, Joe.
Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar. Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jai
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nanda Shri Advaita
Thank you, Alak Prabhu. So we will close this for now. We'll take up forward. Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.